This is Rockin' with J-Man, and today I'm interviewing Vinny Appice. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great for Monday.
For Monday, yeah.
Monday.
Ugh.
Good. Good to be here.
So, Sabbath Nights is coming to Buffalo, and you call it a tribute plus because you were actually there. What makes this different from a regular tribute show?
Um, well, I played on a lot of the songs,
Yeah.
so it's not really, the band imitating the songs, playing the songs. I'm on the songs,
Yeah.
and it makes it a little bit more real. Plus, it's a great band. We jam together. We know how to play together. We don't just go through the motions of playing the songs. We do it as I played it as I did in Black Sabbath
Mhm.
and Dio. So it's more real. It's a more real band, kicks ass, a lot of energy, and a lot of fun.
When you play Sabbath and Dio songs now, does it feel like a tribute or does it feel like stepping back in your own history?
No, it feels like something back, part of me, part of my roots, and that's what makes it fun. I wouldn't want to go out and be playing stuff that's I'm not on
Mhm.
really. I mean, there's some early Black Sabbath stuff we do, a couple songs, and but I played that with Sabbath too. I played those songs with Sabbath as well during the career, so it's all pretty natural for me, part of my roots.
Like we said before, Sabbath Nights, you called it a tribute plus, but couldn't you argue that a lot of classic rock bands today are basically tribute plus too? Because most of
Yes,
them only have like one original member, or some of them they don't even have it any.
I know. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, it's really funny actually.
It's like I was thinking maybe putting the Beatles back together. No, it's crazy. I mean, whoever thought it would come to that? I remember when tribute bands first came to light years ago, and I went, "Wow, that's weird. Tribute band, what's that?" And then I went to see a couple of them back in the day, but they weren't very good. Then I thought, okay, but and yeah, it's big now because a lot of the classic rock, a lot of guys are not alive anymore. Maybe one guy's alive or two guys, and then that's it, and they go out as that band. So people want to hear it. It's all in the brand. That's why you guys, young guys, you're in a band. You want to get part of that band, so you own the name or own part of the name. So years from now, the band goes out and somebody wants to do a tribute. You got part of the name, and it makes it real. And you go out, yeah. And some of the bands like Foreigner, they don't have any members,
Yeah.
but it's in the brand. The brand is Foreigner. The brand is music, and people know what they're going to hear. Rather than a new band that just came out, they don't know what they're going to play. They're not familiar with the music. Here, you know what you're going to hear, and people kind of like that. Plus, I think ticket prices these days are insane, and it's a way for fans to actually go hear the music live with a good band and not have to pay, thousands of dollars, for a ticket and parking and stuff.
What?
They'll leave money left over for a hot dog.
Mhm. What song still beats you up the most physically as a drummer?
We Rock's a killer song because it's fast. That's by Dio on the second album. Um, Very fast, a lot of accents, a lot of bass drum in there. I use single bass drum, not double bass drum. So it's a lot of foot, a lot of bass drum in that song, and a lot of energy. So that one's still a challenge to play,
So,
especially when you get older.
yeah, of course. Jim Crean is singing some monster Ronnie James Dio songs. What do you think a singer needs to pull off the material that right away?
Well, you got to sing. First of all, you got to sing. Find a singer that sings from his heart and his soul. Ronnie sang from his soul and his heart, and Jim sings like that, and we're, we're playing these songs. We're not even tuned down, and Jim could sing them because
Yeah.
Ronnie hits some killer notes in these. You know, the spread of his range is incredible, and not a lot of guys could sing Dio. You know, they could sing Ozzy because Ozzy's a different singer. It's a little bit more simple as a single singer. And so Jim, you know, sings from his soul, and he loves Ronnie. Unfortunately, he never got to meet Ronnie, and he loves playing this stuff. So it's a perfect fit that way, you
What's one Sabbath or Dio song that fans sleep on, but you think should get way more respect?
know. Well, you know what? When we did that album with Sabbath called Dehumanizer,
Yeah.
it came out in a funny time. That's when grunge was becoming big. And we got back together and worked on that album. We put our heart and soul into that. And like the song I on that album is pretty strong and pretty powerful. And that was one of Ronnie's favorite songs we ever played. And but it didn't, you know, peak up there in the top 5 songs of Sabbath with Ronnie because of the time it came out. You know, man, people I think are rediscovering that album. I see it on the internet a lot. People going, "Wow, this is really good." You know, so that's pretty good. Really heavy. You know, we did
Mhm.
that album in England and in Wales, and Ronnie and I lived there. Tony Geezer obviously lived there, but we lived there a lot to record that, write that album, and so there was no distractions. You know, it's like here we are, we're here to do this. So
For a kid my age who only might know Diver or Rainbow in the Dark, what songs should they hear next to really understand the music?
well, I would say for as far as Dio, listen to Holy Diver. It's a great album. We made that album. We weren't thinking we were having fun. We weren't thinking we're going to make a classic album, but it turned out to be a really classic album that a lot of musicians listened to and were inspired by that. And that album, you know, all the songs on there, there's really no filler on that album. Every song's got, you know, some powerful things in it, and riffs and lyrics and sound, and even the sound still sounds great, you know. And then the second album, I think, Last in Line album. There's a bunch of songs on that album that kick ass. You know, Last in Line, We Rock. Uh, what's the other song? The fast song, whatever it is, that one. Evil Eyes, not Evil Eyes. No, that's not it. I don't know. I can't think of the name. But there's a bunch of songs on there that are really good too. And to me, those 2 albums were defining Dio. After that, it got a little bit not so heavy, and then keyboards. Ronnie brought keyboards into the mix, and it didn't have that guitar edge, you know, in the band sound. So those 2 records are great. Sabbath, you could listen to Mob Rules and Dehumanizer. That's the ones I'm on, and then obviously all the old stuff is incredible.
Yeah. Last in Line started as a way to honor the early Dio era, then became its own band. When did you realize it was going to be more than something nostalgic?
But by when we started playing, we just did it for fun.
Yeah.
Viv, it started with Jimmy and Viv. They were in L.A. I live in L.A., not in the middle of L.A., but and then Viv called up and said, "Hey, you want to jam? I'm with Jimmy, and you know, why don't we get together and jam?" I said, "Okay." So we did that, and we had a lot of fun playing all the old songs. And then next week we did it again, and this my friend Andrew Freeman was singer. He came down. I invited him down. Hey, you know these songs, sing with us. And it sounded really good. And then when we thought, let's play some gigs. And the first couple of gigs, we saw the reaction of the fans. They loved it. So we thought, hey, this is something cool, you know. So we never started out as, hey, let's do this and make some money and play stuff and make our own album. It didn't start out like that. It just started out as kind of natural. Like we got together, we did some gigs. The fans liked it. Well, let's do more gigs, and so it's the fans that bring it to light. You know that I think people like this. So
Jimmy Bain was such a huge part of the original band. After he passed, how did Last in Line come to stopping?
well, after he passed, you know, Jimmy was a good friend, and we had so many things. We'd done so many things together. I mean, figure all the gigs we played and travels and hotels and flights and with Jimmy, and it was always fun. And then when he passed, it was very sad for us, and Viv was very broken by it, as well as I was. And we didn't know if we should continue or not, you know. So we gave it some time. Time always kind of sorts things out, you know. And we thought, well, Jimmy would probably want us to keep playing, you know. So we started looking at bass players, and Phil Sasson came to mind because he's a good friend of all of us,
Mhm.
and he's from that same era, and he looks like Jimmy from far away. You know, it's funny. So we decided let's give Phil a go, and it really felt good with Phil, and so we continued that way, you know. So it worked out okay.
Vivian Campbell has racing and everything else going on. How hard is it to keep Last in Line moving with everyone's schedule?
Um, well, yeah, Viv's a busy boy.
Yeah.
Def Leppard doesn't stop. They're like a machine. And then Viv loves rally racing. That's his
Mm.
passion. So he wants to do a lot of that, which is fine. You know, we don't need. We're not a band that goes on tour for months and months and months. We're a band that goes out. We got 4 or 5 shows we can play. Everybody's schedule's clear, and we go play them. And then we come back and see when the next break is and who wants. You know, we're up for doing more shows. So it's that kind of deal. You know, because he's busy and he loves racing. As long as he doesn't hurt himself. That's a crazy sport.
Where does the next Last in Line album actually stand right now?
Well, right now, you know, we parted ways with singer Andrew Freeman, and that's a whole nother story. And we're we're working with somebody. I don't want to mention names, and we're getting together soon and checking out how that works. With as far as let's write some stuff together, let's play. You know, we're not doing any gigs, so it's going to be a while for the next album, and we still have a deal with what the hell? I'm having a senior moment. We still got a record deal with the record company, so everything's sitting there, and it's a matter of seeing if it works. If it doesn't work, then we'll be going to the next step. So kind of like on a hold right now.
So with mentioning Andrew Freeman, he said personally that he wasn't given a clear reason from his exit from Last in Line. From your side, what had happened?
I don't even want to talk about it.
All right, I got it. Um, after 14 years and 3 albums, do you think the fans would accept him moving on, or just the band moving on forward?
Who last in line?
No, Andrew. Just just
Oh,
with
I
him.
have no idea. I have
Okay.
no idea. He's got a good
Oh,
fan base, so I'm
big
not sure.
questions. So let's go back a little bit. You were young when you joined Black Sabbath with Ronnie. Did you know at that time that lineup would become something legendary?
No, not at all, because back in what was it, 1980? When were you born?
2011.
2011?
Yeah.
Holy shit. Anyway, I should say holy diver, not holy shit. Back in 1980, I got a phone call from Sharon Osbourne,
Mm.
and she said, "Look, we're going to put a band together with Ozzy, and we heard about you, and we think we want to fly you to England and go hang out with Ozzy, and maybe join, put the band together with him. And I go, oh, okay, that sounds great. And I knew Ozzy back then; he was crazy. So I asked my brother Carmine, who played with Ozzy. He confirmed the crazy part of it, and that was in England. And I thought, I don't know. So I didn't do it. And then
Mhm.
about a month later, I got a call from Black Sabbath. They said, "We're in town. We need a drummer." Bill Ward left the band. Oh, okay. And this was, in L.A. It's close to me. I said, okay. So I went down, and I wasn't a big, huge Black Sabbath fan. I didn't know the song. I've heard the songs, but playing them, I didn't really know
Mhm.
them. So I went down, and the first song we played was Neon Nights. And Neon Nights I heard on the radio a week before. Weird, right? And then I
Mhm.
got a call from them, and I knew the song wasn't complicated. It didn't really stop except before the guitar solo. So I thought, well, I wouldn't fuck that up because I'll just keep playing. And we played that song. That was the first song we played, and I forgot what else we did. We might have did something else. But Tony Iommi liked the fact that I picked up on Bill Ward's snare thing. Boom, boom, ba, ba, dopa, da, ba, dopa, da, ba, dopa, da, da, boom, da, boom, ba, 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 down, down, da, ba, boom. You know, and that's kind of what the guitar's doing. So they said, okay, yeah, okay, let's do it. So we only had 4 days rehearsal, and then the first show was in Hawaii at Aloha Stadium in front of 30, 40,000 people. So I was really nervous. So then we got through that, and then we started on this tour in the States. There's the Heaven and Hell tour for the Heaven and Hell album. And at that point, it was like, well, you're in the band until Bill comes back. So that's the way it was. And as we went on, Bill never came back. So it got to be a little bit more permanent each day. And then finally, it came time to, Warner Brothers wanted a song called, we did Mob Rules for a movie called Heavy Metal. And we were in England, so they said, all right, we're going to do a song for this movie. We got 2 days off. In England, we went to John Lennon's ex-house where he did Imagine and all that stuff. We got to stay there for 2 days. Amazing, totally amazing. And we wrote and recorded Mob Rules there. And then I knew, well, from recording something with Black Sabbath, that's probably a little bit more permanent now. Because I don't think Bill Ward's going to come back and they're going to play Mob Rules with Bill, because Bill plays his own stuff, the legendary stuff. So then I knew this is pretty much going to be permanent.
Mhm.
So,
When
so that's
you
it.
okay, when you left Black Sabbath with Ronnie and started Dio, did you know Holy Diver was going to become such a monster album?
No, no. Matter of fact, there was Ronnie and I. We'd rehearse in his garage in the valley, and we had Holy Diver. He played guitar too. I forgot if he was playing guitar or the bass, and we had down ba da dum ba da dum do do do. That's all we had was the riff, and this was cool. And I thought, how could you miss with Ronnie singing? The
Mhm.
legendary singing, a voice like no other. And then it was like, all right, let's find people to play with. So we auditioned a couple of guitar players in L.A. and bass players, but Ronnie came to the conclusion that he wanted more of a European flavor to the band.
Mhm.
So we flew over to England, and so long ago we actually roomed together, and then went to see a whole bunch of different bands. And during that time, we were waiting for Jimmy Bain to get back in town because he said he knew a guitar player. So Jimmy got back in town, and then he gave us Vivian Campbell's number, and we called Viv, and Viv was up for it, and we flew Viv into London, and Jimmy was back, and Jimmy wasn't even mentioned to be in the band.
Mm.
Jimmy was like the go-between Vivian and the band, and he just assumed he was in the band because he played with Ronnie before. And when we started playing, it really gelled. It felt great. It felt right. So then we knew we got a band. And then about a month later, everybody back in LA, and we started writing for the album. And we were just having fun, smoking a lot of pot. And I didn't really drink, but those guys, like to drink here and there. And we started putting Holy Diver together. So we didn't know it was going to be an album, like cornerstone album. And that could be the fact that we were having a lot of fun. We were all looking forward to going to rehearsal at night and writing and just playing together and all that. And that makes for a good album, makes for good music.
What was the biggest difference between playing with Ronnie and Sabbath and playing with Ronnie and Dio?
Well, the difference is when you're playing in Sabbath, I always say you're in the house of Sabbath.
Mm.
It's got to sound like Sabbath. Even the drums, certain way I played uh, a little bit more dark, not so busy with Sabbath. So you got to be within the confines of what Sabbath sounds like. With Dio, when we started, it's a brand new band, brand new album. Anything could go. The word can't wasn't in the vocabulary because there was no album that, you go, oh, we did that before on the last album. There is no last album.
Mm.
So it was wide open. And it's a big difference. With any band, that would happen like that. So,
When you play a Ronnie song now, is there ever a lyric that hits different because he's gone?
um, no, you know what? When we play live, it's so pent up to play the song, and I
Yeah.
don't really hear the exact exact lyrics. I hear the melodies and stuff, so that's it's touching.
Mm.
But listening to it, listening to the albums when I come home, or so, if I do, or hear it on the radio, then it's really touching how Ronnie sang. It's just amazing. I remember just being in the studio. We had a basic track, and then Ronnie said, "Let me have a go at it," and he started singing, and it just sounded like the song was finished. His voice just fit right in, so big, and the
Mhm.
melodies and everything was just so powerful. And then I had to go into the studio to get my bag, and Ronnie's singing, and it was him vocally, just acoustically, through the recording mic, and it was so loud the way he sang. God, you used to hearing it through the PA and through the monitors. Well, in the studio, just singing by himself, it was just amazingly loud and powerful. One of a kind.
Would you say Mob Rules is underrated compared to Heaven and Hell?
Um, it could be. I'm seeing a lot of stuff on the internet that people are comparing Mob Rules to that album, and they like it equally as well. Some people like it better. Um, I think there's a little bit more fire in Mob Rules because I'm
Mhm.
playing the drums and I play different than Bill. Bill played more laid back and didn't flash it up so much. But they're both great albums. I love Heaven and Hell. I love the way Bill played it. He gave Sabbath a sound, that sound. And I came in eventually. We did Marlboro. I gave the Sabbath a little bit of a different sound. Maybe it's a little bit more lively. I don't know, but it worked. That's the main thing is it worked on both albums. Uh, so people I think like them both.
As a drummer, what was it like locking in with Geezer Butler?
Geeza's unbelievable, man. What a great player. He's a little bit more busy than Jimmy Bain was. Jimmy Bain kind of just, he wasn't a real technical bass player. Jimmy laid the foundation, you know, whereas Geezer laid the foundation, but then played some riffs in between what he played. So I had to listen carefully, not get in Geezer's way, you know, because of the way he played, and we locked in together. I'd listen. That's the most important thing in the bands, when you're in a band, is to listen, especially when you're making a record, and you listen to what people are playing, and go with maybe, you know, what the bass player's playing, tighten it up. So Geezer was just more of a busier bass player. And so we played well together. It was great playing with Geese.
The Live Evil era became famous for tension and drama. Looking back, was that band already breaking apart before fans knew it?
Probably yes, you know, and it wasn't anything to do with me. I was a new kid on the block, you know. I was like,
Mhm.
I don't know. We had two limos, and you know, it was like the English limo and then the American limo to take us to shows and airports and stuff. And you know, I tried to smooth it out, and I'd go with Tony and Geezer sometimes, and we'd split it around. And I don't know, it was more of a business issue, I guess, not not musical. So that's called the business of music. And but you know, it wasn't going good. Then we went in the studio, and all that shit happened where we go in early and turn the drums and the vocals up, and that was just got built out of hand. You know, that was just built up to a stupid. I mean, we didn't do that, you know, and then yeah. So unfortunately, the band was doomed, you know, to break up.
You
The band
said,
never the band never lasted that long with Ronnie and I.
well, yeah.
You know, we did one album, and maybe we were together for 2 years. Everything's going good, and then boom, something happens. You know, unfortunately, the last time everything was going good with the Devil You Know and a tour, and we were having fun, and then you know, unavoidably, Ronnie got sick, and yeah, that was the end of the band. You know, so.
You said Tony and Geezer wanted you to stay, but you went with Ronnie. Was that a hard decision in your career?
Yeah, of course it was, because here you are staying with Black Sabbath, and I already know Tony and Giza very well, and we play together well. We know that. But then they're based in England again. That was a factor. Like, oh, okay, I got to travel to England each time. And then Ronnie and I got along like brothers. So there's like two parts of the scale. You know, like, what do I do? So I just chose that. Ronnie, you know, I love Ronnie. He was like my brother, and how exciting to start a new band and new venture with Ronnie. So, and we actually lived very close to each other at that point. So I chose that route, and you know, kept in touch with everybody. But that's was the choice for me.
You were once offered the Ozzy solo gig before Sabbath, and later you actually played shows with Ozzy fronted Black Sabbath. Did you ever think I almost ended in Ozzy world instead of the Dio world?
Yeah, yeah, I wondered that. You know, when they first called me in 1980 to join, maybe go hang out with Ozzy and be in that band, I might have been in that plane with Randy Rhoads. I think about that too, because we were really young. So when you're really young, hey, you want to go for a ride in a plane and buzz around? Yeah, let's go. You know, you're younger, you don't think about you know, so many things seriously. So I always think about that. And I don't know if it, like with Ronnie, we lasted for quite a while. I left a couple of times from Dio, but Ozzy changed his band a lot. So I don't know how long it would have lasted if I was in Ozzy's band. And you know, he got he's played with different drummers. But luckily, I got to play with Ozzy Tony and Geezer, the original band, I got to play on a tour in Europe. I think that was in the year 2000 ish, around now. And that was pretty cool. You know, going, wow, I'm sitting here and there's Ozzy, Tony, and Geezer. It's the original band. That's part of history, you know. Same thing with Ronnie, of course. It was unbelievable, you know. But to be in the original band, it was like pretty cool.
When Black Sabbath did 13 in the end of the end without Bill Ward, a lot of fans wondered why they didn't call you. Has anyone actually tried to have a serious talk with you about doing that album or tour? And do you think the politics kept you out?
Nah, it's all politics.
Mhm.
Different managers, different time, you know, it's not I don't think it was the band so much making decisions, you know. Well, let's bring Vinny back in with Ozzy, but then it's like, isn't Vinny from the Dio era?
Huh.
That kind of shit, you know. And this is Ozzy. So, and Ozzy was really nice. We got along great. I met him many, many, many times. We hung out a lot, and when we were doing stuff together. So it wasn't that wasn't a problem. It's more of the politics, people around the band and stuff, you know. They would think that, you know, I'm more associated with Dio version of the band than uh, than somebody else. So that's politics.
Do you think the Dio era Sabbath still gets treated like the other Sabbath instead of being respected as one of the greatest versions of the band?
Um, well, the original band, you know, I mean, they just did Ozzy's big, like say, celebration, and that's the part of Sabbath that really inspired people.
Hmm.
You know, got musicians heard that and never, you know, tuned down all that stuff. So heavy and dark, and so we were then, I would say, the second best version of Sabbath. You know, and some people think we're the first. Some people didn't even hear the old stuff. They came in when Ronnie came in on Heaven and Hell. So luckily, it was great on both ends. You know, the original band was great. The band we had was great. Changed a little bit, different singer, different drummer, but still Black Sabbath. So, but I think that the original Black Sabbath will always prevail. You know.
When Heaven and Hell happened, did it feel like unfinished business finally was getting finished?
Yeah, yeah. It was like, okay, let's you know do it. Let's play together, and because we never had time to, the band always broke up. So when we put Heaven and Hell was together, it was pretty cool to go back and play all those songs again. Sorry about that. A lot
Right.
of people, wanted to hear those songs and stuff. It's funny when we did Heaven and Hell,
Yeah.
when we did sound checks sometimes. Ronnie wasn't there a lot of sound checks. He saved his voice. But Tony and Geezer would play old Sabbath stuff at the sound check, and I'd play it with them, and all the people in the arena, you know, it wasn't open yet. Sound check. Yeah, yeah. Then when I played with them with Ozzy, they played the Heaven and Hell songs.
Hmm.
Ozzy wasn't there, you know. It's really funny, opposite, opposite. But everybody, the crew loved it. They love hearing that stuff.
Fans argue about whether The Devil You Know should basically count as a Black Sabbath album. In your mind, is that a Sabbath album with a different name?
You know what? That's not my particularly favorite album, and the reason being that that's the only album that I was involved with, and Ronnie, that the songs were written before.
Hmm.
All Mob Rules and Dehumanizer were all in a room together, jamming, exchanging ideas, listening to the tape, sweating together. This album, you know, came into Ronnie's house in his studio, and I heard the songs. and it was with a fucking drum machine. You know, problem with the fucking drum machine is if you want to if you want to hang, we're listening to it. Maybe we should hang there. Well, with the fucking drum machine, well, the engineer's got to go in and program the stupid drum machine to hang for a bar or 2 counts or whatever you're doing. So it wasn't the same for me. Songs were good, but I think it would have been a different kind of album had we played it together, because all the structure was there. There was no input from me for the drums, and everything was set in stone, kind of. So it was a good album, but not one of my favorites.
You said Heaven and Hell would have probably continued if Ronnie lived. What do you think the next album would have sounded like?
I think it would have been more back to basics, more raw, getting the room together, pound it out, crank it up, and do it like that. Go back to Mob Rules kind of era, all that shit. I think it would have been great.
Dehumanizer feels heavy and more modern now than maybe it did in 1992. Was
Yeah,
that album ahead of its time?
I probably was. It was very, very heavy. And the only unfortunate thing was it came out when grunge came out, and everybody was going into the grunge mode, and the album got lost a bit. We were like the dinosaurs. But now when you listen to it, you go, man, that fucking kicks ass. It's cool. And the drum sound on there, I love the drum sound. That was Mac who produced it. The reason why the drums are so loud on that song because we were working in Wales, as we always did. We recorded the record, drums were done, and then there was nothing really to do for me in Wales. They're going to mix the album. So I said, maybe I'll go back to L.A. Is that okay? And everybody said, sure, yeah. We don't really need you here. So I went back to L.A., and they were mixing the album, and they wanted to make sure, hope the drums are loud enough. And I wasn't there. I would have probably said they're a bit loud. You could crank them down a notch. But they were concerned that the drums might not be loud enough, so I left. And I heard the album and went, holy shit, man, these things are cranking. And it gives a punch. When the drums are loud, you could hear the bass drum, like Zeppelin. Reason why they sound so good is you could hear the bass drum and the syncopation Bonham's playing. A lot of these albums, you can't even hear the fucking bass drum. So, funny story because I heard the album. Ronnie came over and it was a cassette. We cranked it in my stereo. Whoa, drums are killer, man. And Mac got a great drum sound. Great everything. Everything sounds good. But everything sounds loud, It's the way it should be. So,
You're known for power and feel, not just blasting double bass. Do you think many drummers today focus on speed over groove?
oh yeah, absolutely. Same with guitar players too. I do a lot of rock fantasy camps, and they're bringing in people that come into the camp, guitar players. They go, I can play Eruption, but some of them, your guitar sounds like shit, man. You need to go in front of the amp and let's tweak it, or bring a good, one of the pro guys in and tweak it together, get a good sound. So it's not only about speed; it's about feel. Shit. It's about feel, groove,
Yeah.
and that's what's most important. Speed. Anybody can get fast. You just keep playing it and playing it, playing it. But speed and the groove. I'm very, very inspired by John Bonham, of course. And you listen to that stuff, and he wasn't. Fucking phone. Sorry about that.
Very
But
good.
it's real life. It's reality interview. Um, so you listen to that, and it's, in the Zeppelin stuff, there's so much groove. And even in the old Sabbath stuff, they played together so well. and that there's a groove there. There's something there that you can't really practice. It's got to come from within, you know. So
You've been called the guy who gets called when a band needs someone who can walk into a legendary situation and not crack. What makes a hired gun great? Talent, attitude, or knowing when to just shut up and serve the song?
well, I've only that situation happened with me with Sabbath. So it was with the first version of it when Bill left the tour, and then later on with Ozzy, you know, and I step in. For most important thing with a lot of bands, you got to be a nice guy.
Yeah.
You got to be a nice guy. Come in, no attitude. You know, listen to what people are saying, and let it work that way. Because there's some people that are assholes that come into bands, and it's hard to work with, and people generally don't want to work with somebody like that. So you come in, you're a nice guy, you listen, you do your thing. Okay, I got to learn these songs. Let's check it out. Let's do the best I can, and do your job. You know, whether it's guitar player, bass player, drummer, and you know that makes it a lot easier for everybody. So you got to be a nice guy. You got to be on time. I mean, I play with band, won't name names, but they couldn't be on time. Rehearse at 2 o'clock, and I lived far away from. I moved. I'm like 80 miles from LA, and I'd be there early, and they'd be there. Some of them an hour late, and that's not fair. That's not cool. When we rehearsed with Black Sabbath, rehearsal was at 1 o'clock,
Mhm.
and I would get there about 12:30, and I would hear Tony in the room playing, getting working on his sound. Then I see Geezer pull up. I see Ronnie pull up. It's all before start time, you know, way before sometimes. Everybody was on time. So that's a main concern too. You got to be a nice guy and be on time and all that shit. And Gene Simmons will tell you the same thing because he's done a lot of rock camps. And he showed up at the rock camp like an hour and a half early to get comfortable, getting this, you know, swing of things and all that stuff. And he mentioned that too. He goes, you know, I could have been here whenever, but I chose to come early because I really respect the fact that this is music and getting on the stage. You know, he respects that. So I always remember that.
When you join a band with history like Black Sabbath, Dio, or Heaven and Hell, how do you make your mark without disrespecting the drummer or the lineup that came before you?
Um, I don't think about that. You know,
Hmm.
if they call me,
Yeah,
they know they're gonna get what I sound like in the band.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm not a generic drummer. I don't think. You know, you hear me play, a lot of people can tell. Oh, that I think that's Vinny. You know, because I play a certain way. I hear fills. I like to put it. I put fills where no man has played fills before, like
yeah.
Star Trek, and I just hear it that way. So, but if there's a problem, if somebody goes, you know what, that's too much, too many fills, or it doesn't seem right there, then I'll work on it and okay, let's try it again. You know, so you gotta, you know, like I said before, the most important thing is listening to the band, what they're playing, and play accordingly what fits. You know, if I'm playing something it's overplaying or underplaying, I'll hear it and go, you know what, they're kind of too much in that part. And I do this in my studio. I do a lot of stuff in here for different bands. I just worked on William Shatner's album from Star Trek. I did 3 songs, and you know I respect him obviously, and I didn't want to get in the way, and I tried some things, and I said, "Is this okay?" And they said, "Do more." I went, okay, so I listen to what everybody's playing and try to make it the best I can, you know, powerful and stuff. So
What is the hardest part of being the new guy in a legendary band? Learning the songs, winning over the fans, or dealing with band politics?
Dealing with what?
Band politics. I had a voice crack.
All of that.
Oh,
All of that. All of that. You gotta do it musically, then you gotta do it. I tell you what's important, and a lot of young guys might miss it, is you got to talk some business too. And you're joining a band, then usually going to tell you, we're going to pay you this amount of money and this and blah 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 blah. So you got to get that straight. Good to have a contract, and then deal with that, the business end, and then the politics will come. But if you're the new guy, you usually don't have a say in anything like that. So just go with the flow, you know. And the real reason why you're there is to play the music. So get that done. I'm
your
going to
bro-
have to split in about 5 minutes.
okay, I only got a couple more questions.
Okay.
So, your brother Carmine is also a legendary drummer, obviously. Growing
Hmm.
up, was there any competition, or did you guys just push each other into becoming better drummers?
No, because he was 11 years older than I was. So growing up, I'm like 9 years old. He's 20 and he's playing in the Vanilla Fudge band. And I think at that time, and on the road, he's making his first record. And I was a young kid, I'm 9, 10 years old. So I listened to him. I looked up to him. He was an inspiration. So it wasn't any competition. Then when he come, along the years, he'd come back to the house, my mother's house in Brooklyn, my mother and father. And I'd show him, look, I got this lick. I was like 12 years old. That's when he said to my parents, wow, he's really good. You should send him to drum lessons. Oh, okay. So I went to drum lessons with the same guy, Dick Bennett is his name, in Brooklyn. He's passed, rest in peace. And learned how to read and go through some of the classic books. I suggest that because then you know what you're playing. When you're playing, oh, these are paradiddles, this is a double, this is blah, 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 blah. And there was no real competition between us. I used to go see him play. And later on, we did a show called Drum Wars,
Yeah.
like 2016 ish, maybe, or before. No, about that. And that was fun. That was like competition. We played the songs together, then we play them separately. As we played, I do something to push him, then he'd do something to push me. So we're killing each other on stage. It was great.
You've played with friends, dealt with band drama, and lost friends. You're still out here going super hard and still trying to play as much as possible. What keeps you going?
You know what? It's like it's the music and the fans, and it's just that feeling when you're on stage. There's nothing like it, and the fans are liking what you do, and it's that, That's why these guys like I see Rod Stewart clips. I mean, he's like 80 something years old. He's having a little bit of a hard time up there singing, but I'm thinking, why is he still doing this? And it's because he loves doing it, and
Mhm.
he doesn't need the money, And I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing it. This is fun. The Sabbath Nights thing for me is really a lot of fun because I'm playing all the stuff from a lot of stuff from my history as well, and I'm not playing copy music, so I'm playing my own roots, and that keeps you going. The fans, and you talk to the fans like, "Wow, man, that was so good, you got wow, blah 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 blah," and you meet the fans, and it's a lot of fun. It's cool. The worst part is traveling,
Yeah.
especially these days, hopping on these crappy planes. The seats are like sitting on a piece of wood that big. They're all worn out and shit, and dealing with the people. There's so many people at the airports these days. Like my friend Eric Turner from Warren always said, we get paid to travel, not to play. Because playing's the easy part. That's the fun part. Traveling is what you get paid for because it sucks.
If you were on death row, what would your final meal be and why?
Death row. How the hell did I get there? What would be my final meal?
Yes.
Jeez, I don't know. Maybe a tuna fish sandwich.
Really?
And a side of mashed potatoes and some mega dessert.
Okay.
Chocolate cake with ice cream on it and all that shit.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and interviewing me again. It was a pleasure speaking with you once
Yeah.
again.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoy your interviews, you guys.
Thank you. It means a lot, sir. You have a good one now.
All right. Good luck. Take care.
You
See
too.
you, Gemma.